What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is going to be more oddities of the US geography. Now, I think it was January when we did the 16 oddities of the US by Geography King. Awesome channel, by the way. The link will be in the description. And I've left it a lot of time because, again, I don't want something to get stale. I don't want to keep repeating the same thing for you guys and for me. Like, it's awesome to touch on subjects after a while, especially when you talk about oddities of the US. I really enjoyed that video, but I've left it some time and we're going to be checking out the other ones. I'm keen for this one. The last one, really enjoyed it. You guys seem to enjoy it as well. So let's get straight into it. Geography King's link will be in the description, like I did just say, guys. Check him out at the end of the video. I will remind you. Don't worry about that. I actually emailed him the other day just to make sure these reactions were okay. I know I've been doing it for a while, but I didn't actually know any of his contact details. But I realised he had a business email. Emailed him just saying, howdy. How's it going, mate? I hope you're fine. And he was a legend about it. So shout out to you. If for some reason you're watching, I highly doubt it because you made his videos. But if you are, absolute legend. Now, let's find out some more interesting oddities of a US geography. Hit that subscribe button if you're around here. Hit that like button as well, you absolute legends. And let's see what we got.
Howdy, it's Kyle with another installment of Oddities of U.S. Geography, where I'll be examining some interesting quirks and features of the geography of the U.S. and a little bit of Canada as well. So with a landmass as large as the U.S., there's bound to be some pretty interesting things. Some of these are well known, and you may have heard of some of this stuff, and some other ones I wasn't aware of until I read about them in the comment section in my other video in this series, and some other ones still, this might be the first time you're hearing about them, but let's get started with some of this weird stuff about the U.S.
You know this is going to be weird, isn't it? There is going to be some mental stuff in here. The fact that he's done his original video, and then there's people on the internet, they'll be searching, they'll be looking up for the weirdest stuff in the comments, letting him know, oh, you've got to make another one on this, which he has. So this is going to be good, you can tell already.
First, I want to talk about Crater Lake, Oregon, and just how incredibly deep it is. It has a maximum depth of 1,949 feet, which makes it the deepest lake in the U.S. and the 9th deepest lake in the world. It has an average depth of 1,148 feet, which makes it the third deepest lake in the world in terms of average depth. And that's all very impressive, but what makes it even more impressive is it's not really that big of a lake. It's not even one of the top 100 lakes in the U.S. in terms of area, and there are literally thousands of lakes worldwide larger than Crater Lake.
Wow.
But because the surface area isn't huge while being one of the deepest lakes, it has the highest depth to area ratio of any lake in the world.
Well, there you go. I never knew that. I didn't even know this lake existed. One, it looks absolutely stunning. But I guess it's a crater, and if you look at craters without water in, they are very steep. They're coming like that. I guess a traditional lake, it's eroded over time, got deeper and stuff like that. So it makes sense how it is very steep, and even though it's smaller, very deep.
And also, this happens to be a beautiful national park. Next, I want to discuss how the Mississippi River's meandering has caused some pretty interesting situations in terms of state boundaries. Water is very powerful, but it's also pretty lazy. It wants the path of least resistance, so if a river can get to where it's going by using an easier path, it will change course, and a meander might leave a piece of the old river behind as an oxbow lake. And how that affects state borders is that many of the borders were determined to be the river itself. However, when the meander changed course, portions of a state that were supposed to be east of the river are now west of the river. There are far too many of these to mention in the video, but most of them are around the Memphis, Tennessee area, southeastern Arkansas, northwestern Mississippi, or northeastern Louisiana.
I mean, you can easily just tell, looking at it, how off some of them boundary lines are because the lake used to go there, or the Mississippi River used to go there. Now it's created lakes at times as well. But just looking at that, wow, man.
The largest of these oxbows is just south of Vicksburg, Mississippi. And perhaps the strangest one is Fulton County, Kentucky, which is the southwestern corner of the state. This small part of the state is completely cut off from the rest of Kentucky, and the only way to get there by road is from Tennessee.
Wow,
another very interesting oxbow is Carter Lake, Iowa. It's right in the middle of the Omaha, Nebraska metropolitan area, and it sits directly adjacent to the Omaha airport. If you look at this aerial photograph, the portions to the right of the airport, which is just west of the airport, is the town of Carter Lake. Wow. But a major difference between this one and the Mississippi River oxbows is that those take a long time to create. Those were years and years of meandering and erosion. The one around Carter Lake occurred from one big flood. And take a look at this welcome sign. This is a really cool sign. If your town is an Oxbow, you might as well have a welcome sign like this.
Yeah, I do rate that. It makes sense. I like it.
In Iowa, it's the only state in the country where the entirety of its eastern border and the entirety of its western border is a river. Rivers form a lot of the borders with states, but most also have another type of border, maybe a line of longitude or a mountain crest or something like that. But for Iowa, 2 of its borders are completely rivers. And another small one.
And I've just seen Des Moines. I know it's pronounced Des Moines now, but only the OGs who've been around the channel a long time will remember when I first saw that word. I was like, what's that place called? Des Moines? Des Moines? I had no clue. And luckily, everyone in the comments was like, no. Like groin, but with an M. So, Des Moines. Des Moines? I think I've said it right, but that's a day I'll never forget. I get absolutely roasted all the time for that.
About Iowa, it's the only state in the country where its state abbreviation is 2 vowels. Another spot that is cut off from the rest of its state is the Lost Peninsula in Michigan. This is a small piece of land that is only accessible by road from Ohio.
Okay.
Michigan and Ohio fought to see who would get this area around Toledo. Eventually, it was decided by the courts to use a line of latitude, and this little piece of the peninsula was north of that line of latitude that the Supreme Court drew, and now it's part of Michigan. And Michigan losing this battle is probably why they're still so bitter about Ohio. In terms of what state a city lies in, there's nothing stranger than Texarkana, Texas, and Arkansas. This is effectively one city in which portions of it are in each of the 2 states.
I mean, yeah, that is weird that the city is split over 2 states, but what a name. Texas, or it's one of them, the city name spells, it's split between Texas and Arkansas, easily.
And this is not the same thing as Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas. Those are 2 completely different cities, completely different jurisdictions.
Yep.
Although each half of Texarkana has its own mayor and city council, they do share a lot of city services, and the courthouse and the post office are right along the state line, and there's only one for the 2 of them. And something else interesting about that is if you live in Texarkana, Arkansas, you don't pay state income taxes as if you lived on the Texas side. So it's the only city in the country that is located within 2 states.
Wow. It's one of them. I love the name because it's located in both, and we're just, what do we name it? Oh, we'll just name it between both states. And again, pretty weird. You'd just do the boundary line outside the city, and one of them would pick. But fair play, I rate it. I love the fact they're on the state line as well.
Interesting one about Arkansas is that it borders 6 states, and you can drive due south from Arkansas into all 6 of the states that it borders. So you can see how the boot heel of Missouri kind of juts to the southwest.
Yep.
And how the northwestern portion of the state has a slanted border with Oklahoma, so you can drive south from there too.
Oh, wow.
For this next one, I want to give credit to Alvin, who commented in my other video about oddities. You can drive from Scottsbluff, Nebraska to Savannah, Georgia, which is over 1,700 miles, and only have to pass through Missouri and Tennessee to get there. So if you live...
Oh, that is mental. Again, it just shows how large the US actually is. 1,700 miles, and you're only going through 2 states. Wow, it just again emphasizes to me how big it actually is.
In Scottsbluff, you can say, we don't live that far from the Atlantic Ocean. We're only 3 states away. Another interesting quirk about Tennessee and Georgia is something that I see all the time. To drive from Chattanooga to Nashville along I-24, you have to go through a small part of Georgia to do it.
Okay.
It's the only place in the U.S. where you drive from one portion of a state to another along the interstate, but you have to go through another state to do it.
Wow.
And something else interesting about that is that when you cross over into Georgia, it keeps the Tennessee mile markers. Usually when you get to a state line, the mile markers will start over for that new state, but because it's such a small portion of Georgia you drive through, it keeps the Tennessee mile markers.
Makes sense. It's confusing at the best of times which state you're in. Is a city, half and half, and stuff like that. Try and keep it as simple as possible. Yes, you may be in Georgia, but you're on the same road. It's only a little bit of stretch of land in the whole grand scheme of things. It does make sense.
Another one about Georgia is Savannah along the coast is actually south of Tijuana, Mexico. So if you draw a line of latitude from Tijuana all the way east across the U.S., you'll end up right around Hilton Head Island, South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Just up the road from Tijuana is San Diego, and San Diego has an average high temperature in June of 71 degrees. which just
22,
happens to
nice.
be the same average high temperature in June for Fairbanks, Alaska. Fairbanks does get pretty warm during the summertime, and temperatures in the 80s can be pretty common.
That's mental. Like, you're talking Alaska, all you think of is cold weather. At least all I think of. I shouldn't speak for you guys because you're a lot more weather educated and know a lot more than me. But I'd have gone, yeah, it's a very cold place. I doubt it gets above 15 degrees at times, but you're talking 32 degrees potentially. Damn, that's nasty, man. That is. It persuades me to go a little bit more because I don't like the cold. I prefer a warm place. And if I see there's a potential for warmth, I'm like, yeah, persuades me to go even more.
It's just so far away from the moderating effects of the ocean, and the sun is shining just all the time in June and July. So yeah, it's just as warm as San Diego in June and July, but in January, it's just a little bit different.
Yeah, just a bit cold.
Another interesting climate quirk is that Seattle, regardless of how far north it is, averages only 5 inches of snow per year. And
still quite a bit.
Nashville or Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which average 6 inches of snow per year. You might be thinking, well, because it rains so much, but it does rain a lot, but the amount of rain in Seattle really isn't that much. It only rains about 38 inches a year there.
Oh, wow.
Where I live, again, in Chattanooga, it averages 53 inches of rain per year.
Yeah, it's a big difference
there. A lot of cloudy days in Seattle during the winter, but it's mostly kind of drizzly and light rain and very rarely snow.
There you go. The more you know. It's more snow than what we get in the UK, though. I know that for a fact.
Time zones is that portions of eastern Oregon are in the mountain time zone, and portions of the Florida panhandle are in the central time zone.
Oh,
which means there's only a 1 hour time difference between that portion of Oregon and that portion of Florida. And that's
that's even more confusing when you got different states, part of different time zones. That half it's one time zone, half it's the other. Now that is way too confusing for me.
Farthest distance in the contiguous U.S. you can be to be only a 1 hour time difference apart. An odd relationship between cities and counties is New York City. New York is the only city in the country where the city government supersedes county governments.
Oh, wow.
Each of the 5 boroughs of New York City is its own county. Manhattan is New York County. Bronx is Bronx County, Queens is Queens County, Brooklyn is Kings County, and Staten Island is Richmond County.
Okay.
I think it would have been cool if Brooklyn would have kept the name Kings, so it would have been Kings and Queens, but either way, New York is the only city like this. For this next oddity, I want to thank commenters Mr. Flibble and Marty who posted this in my other video about oddities. If you start in Stamford or Greenwich, Connecticut, and head due north, due south, due east, or due west, the first state line you're going to get to in all directions is New York. I had to look at the map.
Wait, what? North, south, and west?
Map for this one, but it's because these 2 towns are located in that little nub, which is the southwestern corner of the state. This next one has to do with the strange shape of Maryland, which I think is the weirdest shaped state in the country. The northern border for Maryland is a line of latitude, and the southern border of the panhandle of Maryland is the Potomac River.
Okay.
Nothing strange about that, except for the fact that at one point they're only 1 mile apart from each other. So there's a tiny little portion of Maryland where it's only 1 mile wide, separating it from Pennsylvania and West Virginia.
Oh, damn.
And somehow I-68 squeezes right in there, so I'm not sure how Maryland worked that one out, but it goes right there. And here are a couple of quirks that the flat earth crowd aren't going to like.
Oh, there's some people, maybe there isn't any flat earthers in my comments. Let me know if you are a flat earther. I am a complete round earth. I think that is the case, you know. I'm not going to get into this argument. It's probably going to trigger some people. It's all banter at the end of the day. But let's see why the earth isn't rounded. It is flat.
One is that the closest state to the African continent is not Florida, it's Maine. You can get from Maine to Morocco more quickly than you can get from Florida to Senegal.
Oh, wow.
So look there, Maine and Morocco. You're not so far apart after all. Another one for the flat earth crowd is that San Francisco and Indianapolis are both the same distance to Delhi, India. They're both about 7,600 miles to Delhi, but of course to fly there you would go in a different direction.
Yep.
Or another way of looking at it is that if you're in Denver, it's the same distance to Delhi, whether you travel east or west.
Okay,
here are a
that makes
couple
sense.
of interesting geographical quirks about Canada. I want to thank commenter Richard for this one. The southernmost point in Canada is Point Pelee, which is about an hour south of Detroit or Windsor.
Pelee Island, okay.
There are more Americans that live north of this point than in all of Canada combined.
I mean, it's not surprising the population of Canada compared to America, but that is a mental stat. Like, you're talking the most southern part of Canada. In theory, you're talking most things north of it in your head normally would be Canadians. But no, to be fair, you look at that point, it is a lot of America. So when you actually look at the map and see the point, it makes sense. More Americans live there than the Canadians. But damn, that, like, if you haven't got a visual help, that stat is kind of like, what? That makes no sense.
There are less than 40 million people that live in Canada, but there are more than 40 million Americans that live north of the southernmost point of Canada.
Yep.
Another oddity about Canada is just the sheer size and lack of population of Nunavut. It's approximately 725,000 square miles, or 1.9 million square kilometers. That's about the same size as Mexico. It's larger than Alaska and nearly 3 times the size of Texas.
Oh, wow.
However, for this enormous area, there are only 36,000 people that live there.
Again, I was mind blown when I first learned on this channel that Canada was bigger than the US, but obviously a lot of the land was inhabitable, so the population was tiny compared. And I just kind of always went off population and I never thought about it. But the fact that that whole area is 3 times the size of Texas, only got that many people, that is mental. That's hardly anyone. It literally just almost be inhabitable and you can't live in it. Wow.
You do the math and the population density is 0.0 people per square kilometer or square mile.
Wow.
Now, technically, it's 0.02 people per square kilometer or 0.05 people per square mile. But if you're using just one decimal place, it's 0.0 people per square kilometer or mile.
Mental.
Nunavut makes Central Australia look like Toronto. And the last one that I wanted to mention isn't really an oddity. It's just kind of silly. There's a town in South Carolina called North. It was named after a guy named John North, so the town's name is North, South Carolina.
Where are you going? Oh, I'm going to South Carolina. Oh, which part? North. What do you mean? Yeah, I'm going to North South Carolina. Well, which one are you going to? South Carolina or North Carolina? I'm going South Carolina. Oh, okay. But it's North South Carolina. What?
And 100 miles away is a town called Due West. So one way of putting it is you can say North South Carolina is 100 miles southeast of Due West. So there you have it, some more oddities of U.S. geography. I'll probably post a video like this every now and then, so in the comment section, let me know some other ones that I may have missed or might not know about.
Let me know if you guys know any which Geography King hasn't seen and I haven't seen in the comments, guys. If you've enjoyed this video, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, you absolute legends. I'll see you all in the next one, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Peace.